Okay, we're live. Welcome to my second live stream. I'm excited to have you here. I'm going to put something in the chat that if you have a question about people pleasing and over apologizing, please ask it. So, we're going to talk today about why we over apologize, why we say sorry, and if this is you over apologizing, saying sorry for taking up space, or just catching yourself saying sorry a lot, this live stream is for you. So, people pleasing and over apologizing. Over apologizing. What are your questions about that? All right. So, why do we, and I see there are people here, say hi in the comments. Hello, Jadur, welcome. I'm happy you're here. Why do we over apologize? Like we talked about last week, most of what we do and all of our habits are stored in the subconscious mind. So, over apologizing is simply another habit. And I'm going to talk to you in a little bit about, hey, thanks for being here, XYX. I'm going to talk to you about some reframes, how we kick this habit, because over apologizing is truly a habit that we've gotten into based on um, our upbringing for the most part. So, why we over apologize? Again, it's a learned behavior. And I have some notes. So if I'm looking down, that's why I want to make sure that I cover things. This live stream is going to be about 30 minutes long, so you can plan on that. And if you're watching the replay, I put the chapters in the replay to help you be able to skip ahead or rewatch a certain part that maybe interests you most. And again, if you have any questions about why we over apologize, just please put them in the chat. So, apologizing, saying sorry, is really a learned behavior. If you are female, raised as a young girl, we were taught, this is more for women than men, but I have worked with clients who over apologize, who say sorry for they preface a lot of their sentences, right, with sorry. Sorry, can I ask you something? Sorry, like I'm in somebody's way. Sorry when someone hits me with their cart at the grocery store, right? We apologize a lot of times, but it is a learned behavior. And then again, if you grew up, if you were a girl in particular, we were taught to be nice and to be the good girl. And so apologizing helped us maintain that identity, if you will, that good girl identity. Apologizing, we learned, again, we were taught this, we learned maybe even subconsciously that it helped keep the peace, right? If I apologized for something when I was young, then it helped me stay in maybe my parents' good graces or friends' good graces, right? So again, when we do something over and over again, regardless of whether we want it to become a habit, repetition creates habits, good habits and bad habits. It doesn't matter. A repetition will create a habit. It Apologizing helped us fit in and be liked and accepted, right? We never wanted to think that someone is upset with us, and so maybe we apologize uh, for something that we think we did wrong. And it helps us, we think, avoid judgment, maybe even avoid conflict. So, again, it is a learned behavior. It is not something, it's not a skill that you developed, it's a learned behavior that became a habit. And the good news is that if it's a habit, if it's something that we learned, we can unlearn. And I'm going to give you some reframes for different apologies that I hear most regularly. I'm going to give you some reframes on how you can change that habit, break that habit, if you will. And we talked about this, I think, briefly last week in the live that we I lost my train of thought. I forgot what I was gonna say. Oh, that there really are no good habits and bad habits. They're just habits, right? But they can be unhealthy, like apologizing or eating junk food or snacking too late at night or not working out regularly. There can be unhealthy habits, drinking too much, right? Those kind of things. And there can be healthy habits. So, what we want to do is not necessarily try and get rid of a habit, but replace an unhealthy habit with a healthier one. Again, I'm going to share some reframes with you in a little bit. Again, if you're female, you most likely were taught to apologize. It does occur more often in women than men. And research shows that men, when they apologize, typically they're apologizing because they realize they did something wrong. And women apologize to save face and to create this perception that we didn't do anything wrong or that we're not flawed. And so there's completely a different dynamic that goes on between men and women. Again, men sometimes apologize for things that they didn't do wrong. They take on the blame, just like women do. We take on the blame to in order to be liked and to fit in and to be accepted. I want to give you an analogy. I did a video on this, and so you can find that on my channel about apologizing and saying sorry. But I gave the analogy of it's like trying to do your hair with a hammer, using a hammer or a pen or any tool that isn't made to comb your hair or to fix your hair. And so, with that analogy, right, saying sorry is like trying to make your hair look good with a hammer, and it just won't work. And that's what we were taught, is that it was a tool that fixes things, and saying sorry does not fix things. In fact, it actually can make things worse because it can create disconnection in relationships. It can cause distrust in you because if you apologize a lot, if you preface a lot of your sentences with sorry, but can I ask you something? Sorry, I'm late. Sorry, 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 right? People start to not believe you're sorry. So when you really are sorry for something, when you hurt someone or you did something, that was painful, your apology maybe won't have as much impact anymore because you say sorry so often that they no longer believe in that word. So we really have to be careful. And if this is a habit for you, I encourage you to again, if you're listening to the replay, to make sure you listen to the part where I give reframes, and to tell you how to break this habit, how to step out of the habit. Because again, sorry comes out so quickly, so easily without us even recognizing it. It's just like putting on your seatbelt. You don't even realize you're doing it, right? When you get in your car to drive, and welcome here. Um, let me finish this thought because I'll forget it. Menopause brain. When you get in your car to drive, you don't think, okay, close the door, right? This is me. Turn on the car, right? Then I put on my seatbelt. So I don't think to myself, okay, put on my seatbelt now, put it in reverse, right? It's not conscious. It's all of that is automated. But at one time, you did have to teach yourself that, right? To get in the car. Maybe you learned to drive a stick shift like I did. It did not come automatically, right? You got in your car, you learned how to press in the clutch, put it into gear, like slowly release on the clutch and press the accelerator at the same time. But now I can get in a manual transmission car and drive it without thinking about it. We say sorry without thinking about it if it is truly a habit. Snowbird says, I think I say sorry without even thinking. Exactly. Someone will say, it's okay, you're fine. And then I realize I had apologized. Exactly. That's life said, yes, I always apologize for everything, even for other people's mistakes, right? Oh my gosh, I just got goosebumps. It, I believe, for women in particular, saying sorry has become an epidemic. We apologize for taking up space, right? How many times do you get to the grocery store door, maybe at the same time as you, or you're grabbing for a cart at the same time and you're like, oh, sorry, sorry. And you back up and allow them to go first. Why are we apologizing? We didn't do anything wrong, right? We just happen to be in the same spot at the same time as someone, but why does that diminish our place in the universe at that moment, right? But we are telling, when we apologize, when we say, oops, sorry, 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 we're telling our subconscious mind that we believe we are wrong. And as I talked about last week in the live, our subconscious mind does not act on its own. It can only do what it was taught to do. And so with these habits, we're teaching it what's important to us. It's think of it as the software in your computer. If you have a piece of software that you want it to do something, like say you use Word, but you're trying to make calculations of something. Word doesn't know how to do calculations. If you wanted to do calculations, you should use an Excel spreadsheet or a Google sheet, right? That's what it is good at. So if you think of your subconscious as your whole computer software, it can only do what's programmed into it. So if you've programmed in the habit of saying sorry, it thinks that that's important to you to apologize in those instances, but it is diminishing to us to do that. Let me read the comments here. That's life. She said, or he, I don't know. Yes, I always apologize for everything, even for other people's mistakes. I was abused as a child. Oh, I'm so sorry. And was made to apologize for everything because I was always in the wrong. Okay, that brings up a really good point, and thank you for saying that. And I'm so sorry that you went through that in your life because no one deserves abuse of any kind, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. Like no one deserves that. No one deserves that. And you didn't deserve that as a child. What I can tell you is your subconscious mind learned because your subconscious mind main goal out of everything is to keep you safe. So your subconscious mind is what makes your heart beat. It's what makes you breathe, right? We don't have to tell ourselves, okay, heart, take a beat, okay, take a breath, right? We don't purposefully digest our food, right? Our subconscious mind is doing all that for us. And that is to keep us alive and safe. So your subconscious learned in order to stay safe and to survive childhood, You learned to apologize because that's what kept you possibly physically safe. And again, I'm so sorry that you endured that. Now you know as an adult though, you no longer have to live in that safety, right? And I can help you rewire that if you're interested in looking into that further, right? We can wire our subconscious mind to understand and to build a new neural pathway that you no longer have to apologize for your existence and to keep yourself safe. And again, it's not who you are, it's just a habit that got programmed in order for you to, I know it sounds severe, but to survive your childhood. And so I'm so happy you're here, and so happy that you shared that. Thank you. And I hope that helped. And again, I offer free clarity calls, and I can tell you how I can work with you and help you with that if that's something that interests you. And my link to my calendar is in the description of this video. So check that out if that's something that interests you. Snowbird said, "I feel it's polite to say sorry if someone and myself go to grab for the same shopping cart." Again, like I would ask you, uh, and I know that in certain cultures, like Canadians have said to me before, that's just who we are, is to apologize, right? And Australians. Um, it is kind of a cultural thing, and especially as women, right? We are not so much anymore, right? But again, we were taught to be nice and to be the good girls and to be the nurturers and not to hurt people's feelings. And so we learned more than men, more than boys, to apologize. Um, so yes, I would ask you as an adult now how how you could reframe that for yourself, right? Because if someone's always saying sorry to you, and I'm talking to Snowbird and anybody else who feels like it's the polite thing to do, um, w why do we, because what happens is a lot of times, say I I told someone my truth about something, and I knew that it was a truth that was going to probably hurt their feelings, right? And then I either preface what I say with, "Sorry, but this probably is going to hurt you," or I apologize after because I see the hurt in their face. That is me taking on their emotions, right? That is me taking responsibility and taking the blame for how they are reacting or responding to my emotions. And that is a people pleasing behavior, right? We take on the emotions of others and think that they're our own and think that we're responsible for fixing them. You're not responsible, especially in something as simple as going to the grocery store and getting to the cart at the same time as someone else. There's nothing polite really about it. Does the other person apologize to you? And if they don't, right? If they just, you apologize and then you let them have the cart and they don't say, "Oh, sorry," right? Do you think that they're not being polite? Typically, no, right? We just think that a lot of times an apology is to make ourselves be perceived in a certain way, right? So I would ask you, what is it about being polite that you think makes you a better person or is necessary in your life? Why do you feel, and I'm not picking on you because I'm sure there are people watching that feel exactly the same way, and I felt the same way. Like, I don't want to hurt someone, or I don't want to be viewed as impolite, right? I want to be viewed as nice. But being viewed as the nice girl has gotten me in so much trouble, and that is another live for another day, because we can go down a huge rabbit hole of what nice has created in my life. And I'll actually put a link to a video that I have on my channel about I think it was the 5 things that how nice got me in trouble, right? How it created a divorce in my life, how it got me into bad relationships, always being the nice one. So I would just ask you, like, why is it important to you to appear as polite? There's more comments here. Miss Danny Mac said, in that scenario, I would say, you go ahead. Great. That's a great way to reframe it, right? You're not saying sorry. You're just saying, no, you go ahead. And that's perfect. That's awesome. Battle Gang said, sorry, but no. I don't say sorry. Sorry to say that, but no. Um, I'm not sure if you're like just being funny, or you truly don't say sorry. And that's great. Like if you don't apologize and don't say sorry, that's awesome. Snowbird said, your example really opened my eyes. Thank you so much. I'm a people pleaser and hate conflict." That is that is one of the key things about people pleasing is we don't like conflict. One of my biggest people pleasing hurdles, or probably my biggest people pleasing hurdle to overcome, was the fear of disappointing someone. And that goes along with, right? If they're disappointed, there's probably going to be conflict. And so I bent over backwards. I apologized. I did everything I could to avoid disappointing someone because I thought it was my responsibility for them to not be disappointed. But again, that goes back to what I was just talking about a little bit ago, that is me taking on their emotions. If something I do or say that is just my truth or something that I want to do, I don't want to go to happy hour, so I say no. I I maybe don't have any other plans but to go home and relax, but the other person is disappointed, and then I take on that, and maybe I change my no to a yes, or I apologize, right? "I'm so sorry, but I can't go," right? "No, I can't make it this time, but thanks for asking. I hope you'll ask me again," right? Period. There's no sorry that's needed in that. So again, Snowbird, I'm happy that my example opened your eyes, and you're welcome. So what else about apologizing? Do you have any questions about it? Again, I have some notes here. I just want to make sure that I'm covering things. So, oh, my therapist pointed out because my ex-husband, who was, um, it was a very toxic relationship that went toxic really quickly after we got married. And he started apologizing for things and saying, "Sorry, I'll change. Sorry," right? And I brought this up to my therapist, and she said that when someone apologizes, you know that it's a true apology when their behavior changes. So if you're saying sorry a lot for things, are they things that you are actually doing wrong or actually hurting somebody? Does your behavior need to change? Or again, are you just wanting someone's perception of you to be as a nice person, not a rude person? There's a huge difference, right? And when my therapist said that to me, it was like, oh my gosh, his behavior hasn't changed a bit, right? One of the things that he would do is he would commit to cleaning up, for instance, this is a simple example, but cleaning up his stuff in the garage. And he'd be like, "I promise I'm gonna do it. I commit to doing it this weekend." And then he wouldn't. And he'd be like, "Well, sorry, I just didn't have time." Or sorry, it was always an excuse. And then he started saying, "I'm just gonna stop using the word commit or promise because you're like holding me to it." Well, when we commit to doing something, that means that we're saying we commit to doing it. We see how it maybe harms the other person by doing what we're doing. And so when we commit to changing it, we change, right? But if we're just saying, sorry, I'll do it tomorrow, that is not an apology. An apology is, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I realized I committed to that and I fell through. I'm truly sorry. I will, I commit to doing it tomorrow, or I will, stop. I will stop I'll stop putting that off. So there is a difference between when a real apology is needed and what a real apology is used for. And so be careful because, again, like I said earlier in this live, when we over apologize, when we say sorry too much, when we preface almost everything we say, people start to not believe that we truly are sorry. I got to the point where I didn't believe that he was sorry because his behavior did not change. So again, most of the time that we're saying sorry, it's to avoid something. It's to avoid appearing rude, or to avoid feeling guilty, or to avoid judgment, right? Or to avoid feeling selfish, or to be perceived as selfish. But it's really important that we start watching these apologies. And I wanted to keep this live to about 30 minutes, so we'll go just, 5 minutes more or so. If you have other questions that you want to ask about it, I'm gonna go next into how how saying sorry and boundaries go together. Why apologizing is actually you crossing a boundary. Um, Again, it's a boundary issue in that when you say sorry to avoid the discomfort of someone else's possible hurt or disappointment, you're taking on their emotions. And that is you crossing a boundary. People pleasers think we're so nice and that we're doing the right thing by being nice and by saying sorry, but we're actually crossing boundaries and we're not allowing the other person to sit in their discomfort, to come to us and say, hey, that hurt my feelings, or can we talk about it and discuss it, right? We just apologize right up front to avoid all of that because we think if they're hurt or that there's a conflict there, that we're to blame, and we don't want to have that. As someone else said earlier in the comments, right? The main thing is to avoid conflict, or one of the main things. And so we apologize, but doing that is crossing boundaries. You taking on someone else's emotions to fix or to make right, or so that you don't feel uncomfortable or they don't feel uncomfortable. That is you crossing a boundary. Um, Also, every unnecessary apology that you make is you crossing a boundary with yourself. That is you abandoning your own needs and wants and really your identity as a person for for your own comfort or to keep them comfortable. And that again is crossing a boundary. But when we abandon ourselves, we're crossing boundaries with ourselves. And if you feel like this might be you, I have a free quiz called the Boundaries Blind Spot Quiz. It will take you through some scenarios and you rate them according to how well you feel like you do right now in your life with those things. Um, and it will help show you in 7 areas of your life where your boundaries might be weak and where you could use maybe some attention to focus some attention on a particular area. Maybe it's saying sorry a lot, right? So it's in the area of communication or being assertive, speaking up for yourself. This quiz will show you where you could start focusing some attention, like I said. So if you want that, that is down in the description also of this live. And I also will, when the live ends, I'll put it in the comments, the first comment of the video, so that you can grab that free quiz easily and take it, and then go to work on maybe an area where you could use some improvement. Snowbird said, I do it to avoid being rude. Okay, perfect. I'm definitely crossing boundaries. I hate hurting others. How do I get better at not feeling bad about telling others how I feel? Great question. And that gives me goosebumps. Thank you for asking that. How do I get better at not feeling bad about telling others how I feel? This comes down to self esteem, self worth, self acceptance, knowing that your needs and wants and desires and preferences are no less than anyone else's. That takes some, it takes some acknowledgement, and I appreciate you acknowledging it, right? It takes awareness first to do that, and then it takes some tools, and I'm gonna teach you some stuff right here now. I will go into that in another live. That's a great, great question. Next week, I will do that as a live. So if you can come back next week at the same time, same place, same channel, we'll do that as a live. Definitely crossing boundaries. I hate hurting others. How do I get better at not feeling bad about telling others how I feel? I I hid my truth for 55 years of my life, and it got me into bad relationships. It got me into bad friendships that ended up ending because when I finally realized how much I was hiding my own truth. But it came down to that my self-esteem, I didn't think I was worthy to speak up, and I was so afraid of rejection and conflict and disappointing someone that I thought the way to avoid those things was to not speak my truth, and it allowed me, or it kept me in these relationships that those people were just running my life. I did everything based on what they wanted, what they told me was best for me. I went to college for dental hygiene because someone in my family recommended, they thought it would be a great career for me because of the money. I was like, okay, instead of following my own gut, my own intuition, I just followed the lead of others because I thought that that was easiest and that was safest, right? We go back to, again, it's part of a safety thing. So I will go over that in another live. But real quickly, I want to talk about how we can um, reframe, give some new words to this. So someone said, like, when we get to the shopping cart at the same time, instead of apologizing, just saying, "You go ahead," or "Hello, hi, how are you?" Right? When I started doing that, when I'd get to the grocery store door at the same time, right? And you're vying for position of who goes through first. "Hi, have a nice day, go ahead," or, "How are you?" And then I would go ahead, right? Instead of me always backing off and me being the one to always put them first and for me to shrink a bit in my space. I started realizing, like, physically owning my space, and it takes some practice because, again, it's a habit, right? Um, saying, sorry, I missed your call. Sorry, I didn't reply to this email right away. Instead of saying sorry, just say what you want to say, right? Unless you promised I'll get back to you in 5 minutes, or, whatever. But most of the time it's not that. Someone said in one of my videos that she apologized always in emails at work for not getting back to them right away. Unless there was a deadline, there is no reason for an apology, right? We all have lives. And my biggest pet peeve now is, sorry I didn't text you back right away. I have a life. You have a life. You don't need to respond to a text that I sent you, even if it was 2 days ago. You have a life, and you don't need to apologize for not getting back to me right away, unless you said, "Hey, I'll get back to you in an hour," and then, it's 2 days later, right? But again, if we're constantly apologizing and then not changing our behavior, that sorry is meaningless. So, I'll leave you with that to think about that. If you have some, other things you'd like me to reframe, it just usually is as simple as, "Thanks for asking. Thanks for waiting." Like, I used to apologize a lot for being late, and I wasn't changing my behavior, so I needed to stop apologizing. Either change your behavior or stop apologizing. But even 2 minutes late, I would, bend over backwards to apologize, and I would feel so guilty, and we think the apology is gonna take away the guilt, but it doesn't, right? And then we just beat ourselves up more and more and more. And that it's just a vicious cycle. It's a vicious people-pleasing cycle. So I just started reframing it and knowing that it's human to be late, right? I'm not saying late all the time. I'm just saying sometimes stuff happens, life happens, and maybe I'm 2 or 3 or 5 minutes late, and I just say, "Thanks for waiting. Thanks for your patience." If it's been a long time in me replying to something, an email, and I think that they've been waiting, I will just say, "Thanks for waiting for my reply." If someone asks you to go somewhere and you don't want to or you can't, you have time in your calendar, but you just don't want to, don't say sorry. Just say, "Thanks for asking." And if you don't want to go again in the future, don't follow that up with, "Invite me again next time." But if you would like to be invited again, say, "Thanks for inviting me. I hope you'll include me or ask me again next time." Because that's a lot of the fear, right? Is that we won't be asked again. If I say no this time and I don't apologize or I don't appear apologetic, then maybe they won't ask me again and they won't like me and they won't include me. So, thank you for your questions. Next week will be about, um now I forgot. Uh Oh, hurting others and how do I get better at not feeling bad about telling others how I feel? So thank you for asking that, Snowbird. I look forward to seeing you next week. Again, same channel, same bat time, same place. So I'll see you here. Thanks for joining. I truly, truly appreciate you being here. Have a great rest of your day or night or wherever you are.